Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Hola, mi amigos, and welcome to, I don't know how to say literary AF in Spanish.
Yeah, no, it beats me.
So anyway, welcome to Literary AF. It is a podcast about books, for books.
4 books, yes.
Only books can listen to this. If you're a person, shut it off. My name is Sheldon.
I'm Danny.
And we are here to talk about, this is like the pinnacle of literature for our society. This is the book that everyone, like, history was building towards. Twilight Part 4, Breaking Dawn. We're going to start with just a brief plot summary because we got a lot to talk about in this book. And then we're going to close out with just our kind of general thoughts on the series and its place in culture and stuff like that.
Yeah, because there's a lot to fit into this little chunk of time. So
there is a lot to talk about for this one. Okay, Danny, do you want to start with your plot summary?
Sure. The book opens with Bella. She's got a brand new car. She's filling it up at the gas station. It's a really cool Mercedes Guardian.
Of course.
Get it? Because Edward wants to be as safe as possible.
Of course.
She is about to get married to Edward. She doesn't want to. She still does not want to get married to Edward.
Mm-hmm.
But he won't change her into a vampire until she has been married. Let's see. Bella is...
and she wants to make love once before he
changes
her.
She does, yeah. She wants to have sex with Edward at some point.
She wants to know what it feels like in a regular human body.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jacob has been missing since the end of the last book. So there's like... Have you seen this boy posters posted all over town?
Yeah, he's been up in the Canadian wilds.
Yeah, he has
been. As a wolf.
He turned into a wolf and then just ran away forever.
I thought I saw him the other day in the Canadian wilds.
Bella gets married. They go on their honeymoon. They go to an island that was bought for Esme.
Oh my! I forgot about that. We're gonna talk about that later. Okay.
Yeah. So they go to Esme's island, where they have sex.
Mm-hmm.
Edward, he hurts her, kind of.
Yeah, she's covered in bruises.
She's covered in bruises.
But they don't really describe the sex scene too much, do they?
No, I have something to say about this later, so we'll come back to this for sure.
Okay, put another pin in it.
Yep.
We're at pin number 2, folks.
Pin number 2. They have sex, and then Edward won't touch her again because she's a fragile human. And then she coerces him into sex again.
Of course.
And then she wakes up in the morning and she's like, oh man, I've been so dizzy. Oh man, I'm really hungry lately.
Oh my gosh.
And she realizes that she's 4 days late for her period and that she's pregnant.
Pin number 3.
And then Edward's like, we have to go back to Carlisle. We're going to take care of this problem. And then that ends Bella's first segment of the book. And then we actually have a POV switch over to Jacob.
Which is interesting because it's the first time in the series that it does that, right?
Yes, it is. It's the only time in the series that it does this. And Jacob is having some problems with his pack. They assume that the Cullens have bitten Bella, and as a result, Jacob is like, I'm going to go kill him. They broke the treaty. I'm going to kill him. But Sam is like, she wanted to change, so it doesn't really break the treaty. We're not going to kill them. Jacob splits off from his pack and goes to fight the Cullens by himself, which is a stupid idea. But when he gets there, he finds Bella with the Cullens. She's still human, but she's also huge and pregnant.
Yeah.
And the baby is killing her, is basically what you take from that. And then Jacob goes back to his pack, and because they share the pack mind between all of them, they all immediately realize what's happened. And Sam is like, oh, this is an abomination. We actually have to go kill all the Cullens, and we have to kill Bella.
Yeah, we see a complete motivation switch.
Yep.
Where the pack is like, okay, we don't want to fight the Cullens, but Jacob's like, no, I'm going to do it. And then to Jacob being like, no, we shouldn't fight them, and the whole pack being like, we got to kill the baby.
Yes, for sure. And so Sam Yulee keeps like imposing his alpha will on Jacob and, what's the other guy's name? The little kid.
Seth?
Seth, yeah. So Jacob and Seth are both against this idea, and Sam Yulee keeps like using his alpha powers to make them obey, because you're not allowed to disobey what the alpha commands.
Yeah.
And Jacob has this moment where like he breaks free of this bond, and he actually splits off from the pack, and he becomes his own alpha, and he's decided to protect the Cullens from the pack. Seth splits off as well and goes to join Jacob, and a little bit later, Leah also splits off to come join her brother Seth and Jacob.
Because she's Sam's ex-girlfriend and can't stand that he's imprinted, right?
Yeah, put a pin in that.
Yeah, pin number 4 or 5?
Something like that, 4, I think. So then the werewolves don't attack because now there's 3 werewolves hanging out with the Cullens, and it's not so even of a fight anymore. Bella has the baby.
The pregnancy goes really rough and really fast.
Yeah.
She at one point she's like basically dying because like the baby breaks her ribs, the baby breaks her pelvis.
Yes.
And then at one point the placenta is separated or something.
That's right when she's about to give birth. Yeah, the placenta separates.
Yeah, so they have to act quick.
So they
hit her with some morphine.
Nope, they don't.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they do. Yeah,
because I remember that being a big thing with
when she changes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah. And then Edward, like, rips her stomach open and pulls the baby out.
First Rosalie tries and then smells the blood and instantly wants to kill
she can't control
Bella.
herself, yeah. And then Edward rips the stomach open, pulls the baby out, and while Jacob is delivering mouth to mouth for Bella while Edward's doing this, it's like it feels weirdly sexual. When I listened to it, it was weird.
Put a massive pin in that one.
Yeah, put a really, really big pin in that one. And then the baby is given to Rosalie to take care of. Jacob comes downstairs to kill the baby because it killed Bella. He thinks it killed Bella.
He thinks his whole life has been leading towards this moment of killing the baby.
Kill the baby. And then he sees the baby, and then he imprints on the baby.
And that will be our second massive pin.
Yeah. And that's also the end of Jacob's POV.
Yeah.
Now it switches over to Bella, who is in the process of turning into a vampire. Surprise, Bella has no negative side effects of turning into a vampire.
Everything they've warned you about for the entire book of like, oh, when you're a newborn, like you're incredibly like bloodthirsty.
Yeah, you're super hungry. You're
you
impossible
can't control
to control
your actions at all. Bella has none of these.
No, Bella's fine. She's she's hungry, but she's not uncontrollably hungry. She keeps a rein on her temper, no problem. Like, she never has any kind of issues with that.
Everyone's like amazed. I think, was it Jasper is especially like...
Yeah, Jasper gets mad
she's
because...
controlling herself.
Yeah, Jasper gets mad because she's like immediately within control of herself, which is not what they had expected. And Edward's like, I guess you can go to school in September. So...
We're going to put a pin in that one too. We have to talk about Bella's
school.
Well, I was thinking more of her transformation, but also her school.
Also her school. Okay, and what happens? So this other vampire comes back to like...
Oh, also we should just say quickly, the werewolves have called off their hit on the baby because werewolves aren't allowed to attack anyone who another werewolf has imprinted on.
Yes.
So Jacob's imprinting on the baby has actually completely fixed the situation.
Yes. It also happens off screen while Bella is unconscious.
Yes, and also Bella... wants to kill Jacob because she thinks he's trying to...
She does fight Jacob, which I thought was really funny.
Because he
imprinted on her baby.
Attracted to her baby.
Yes.
But then is kind of instantly cool with it when she like... Oh, yeah, I forgot to say. Renesmee can communicate by touching people's foreheads.
Oh, yeah, she touches people's faces and shares her thoughts with them.
Sends her thoughts to them. Yeah. And so Renesmee does this to Bella... And Bella realizes how much Renesmee is like protective of Jacob.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, I guess
my baby loves this adult male.
2-second-year-old daughter is cool with this, so it's she gives consent, it's fine.
Yeah.
All right, and then after that,
this other vampire comes in to apologize to Carlisle, I think, because she didn't help them in the last book when they needed help. But she sees Bella and Jacob and this daughter who is now like a toddler. She's up and walking around. It's only been like a couple of weeks.
The baby ages ridiculous.
She ages really fast. And this vampire sees the baby and she's like, oh no, a mortal child. I'm going to go tell the Volturi. Because there's a strict rule, no immortal children.
Yeah, it's set up earlier in the book that
there
was once some vampires who were like biting babies.
Yeah.
And then the babies were like, they had no self-control and they wiped out an entire city.
Yes. So the Volturi are like, oh no, they made an immortal baby. We're going to go kill all the Cullens. And then it turns into like the Cullens all split up to go get all the other vampires to come join their side as witnesses. Alice and Jasper like disappear, and everybody assumes that it's because they're running away from the fight.
Yeah, and everyone's just kind of cool with it. They're like,
Yeah.
whatever, they're gone.
I guess they're gone. And then the Volturi show up, and they talk about it for a bit. The Volturi leave, and then everything's happily ever after.
They have like this really long standoff.
Yeah.
And it's like Bella uses her mind powers to like keep the Volturi at bay.
So yeah, Bella has the mind shield powers that make her all protective of everybody on her side.
So that whole thing where Edward couldn't read her mind.
It's because of her powers.
It's because of these like latent powers that become active when she was a vampire.
Yes.
And she can block all vampires from using their powers.
Yeah. Well, she makes like a barrier, and then they can use their powers inside the barrier or outside the barrier, but they can't cross through it.
But her thing was, because the vampire couldn't mind torture her before, right?
Yeah, because the barrier was focused solely around herself. She can spread the barrier out to cover crowds of people, and then the mind control can't work through that barrier.
She's essentially like, she's kind of like Leech from X-Men, who can like stop powers, but she can control whose power she stops and whose power she lets through, and like she can set a barrier of like powers can't pass through. Like she's very OP.
Super OP.
And then, everything works out, right?
Yeah,
what happened? How does it end?
It ends with everybody's happy.
Well, like, I seem to remember there being, like, 3 different vampires who just show up and are like, this happened, and actually it's fine.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so Jasper and Alice eventually come back in the middle of the big fight with a vampire from Brazil who is actually a half vampire. And it turns out that half vampires, they age up till they're like 20 or whatever. They hit 20 when they're actually 7, and then they just stay there forever.
Which is pretty convenient for Jacob.
Oh, yeah. And then they can eat people food, and they can drink blood, and they can turn people into vampires, but only the boy vampires can turn other people into vampires. Girl vampires can't do that.
Okay. Weird.
Yeah, that's weird fact.
Stipulation.
Yeah. And then everybody's like, oh, I guess half vampires are okay now. Okay.
I seem to remember there being somebody else who shows up before Alice does, who's like, oh, hey, here's a thing that you guys didn't know about that is like, I remember there being like a couple things that happened right in a row, and then the Volturi are like, oh, okay, I guess no fight then. I could be wrong, though.
I'm trying to remember.
It's been a while since I read through this book.
It's been like a week since I finished it. I don't remember that. There's like a couple conversations about how the Volturi make excuses to come kill families that they don't like. And that's kind of what they were doing with the Cullens. Like, it wasn't a huge issue, and they could like overlook it, but they're also really mad that Edward and Alice didn't come join them. So they're going to kill the rest of the Cullens so that Alice and Edward don't have a choice.
All right, let's just take a brief moment to talk about what we like about this book.
Okay.
For me, I know personally I like the Jacob POV. I thought was a pretty interesting like section of the book.
I like that section of the book.
I actually really like the chapter where he goes to Seattle and just like tries to imprint on any girl he can.
He just goes to hang out at a mall and at a park and looks at all the girls till he finds one he could imprint on.
Yeah, he's just like looking at every face he can, like hoping he'll imprint.
Yeah.
And it's like kind of like I don't know, it's like a weirdly, it doesn't strike me as something that any like normal person would actually do.
Yeah.
But it just like, it's kind of like a cool like idea of like, he wants to get over Bella, so he's gonna like try as desperately as he can to just imprint on anyone.
Yeah. I liked how all of Jacob's chapters had like really long, kind of weird, funny names on them.
Oh yeah, there's that one that's like, why am I here again? Oh, that's right, because I'm an idiot or something like that.
Yeah, whereas like all of Bella's chapters have like hope and dawn and just like fancy artistic one word chapter titles, and then Jacob's are just like really long run-on sentences. I thought that was really funny. I did like how there was like a distinct feeling between human Bella and vampire Bella. Once she changes over to vampire, she feels like a different character, which
That's
is
true.
I fitting, I guess, she has problems remembering like stuff of her human life, which they said in earlier books. Like when you're a vampire, you don't remember that part of yourself anymore. So I did like how it had like a distinct feel to it compared to human Bella. What else did I like? I like Jacob's stuff. Him splitting off from the pack was kind of cool. I didn't really see that coming. This was the first time I had actually read this book, by the way. I haven't seen the movie or read the book, so this was a whole new thing for me.
Yeah, so this was your first time. I read it years ago and like reread a chapter summary before today just so I'd have like remembrance of what happened.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we said most of the good stuff.
I like the writing better than the first few books. Like if you put Twilight next to Breaking Dawn, I feel like the writing style has vastly improved. Stephanie Meyer has gotten a lot better at what she's doing by this point.
Well, this book too has a lot more going on than the other books does. So
yes.
she almost like she has to be more concise in this one.
Yeah.
Like Twilight, really, there's nothing that goes on in the first Twilight book. Like, I mean, there's some stuff, obviously, but like Twilight could have been a 150-page book instead of a 400-page book or whatever it is. Yeah, for sure. But this one is like, no, there's actually a ton that's happening.
Yeah.
Now let's get into some of the pins that we dropped earlier.
Okay.
Okay, I want to talk about how rich the Cullens are and like Isle Esme or whatever it is, and like buying her like multiple cars in this book. And
the Mercedes Guardian was a car that he borrowed for Bella. He didn't buy that.
Oh, okay. The chapter summary was not clear about that.
Yeah, no, he borrowed it for Bella. It is a car that was made for like drug dealers, and it has like rocket-proof glass, and it's full of like body armor, and like it's crazy. And Edward's like, "This is to keep you safe because I can't trust you on your own."
Ridiculous.
And then I did read an article actually. Like, I didn't read the whole thing, but I did see a chunk of it where it was like somebody took Carlisle's estimated wealth, and it was like trillions of dollars because he was changed in the 1600s, and he's like a doctor, and he's been a doctor for how long, and then inflation and just, you know, being that old, you have that kind of money.
I mean, that's true, but also I feel like it would be very hard to keep that under wraps.
For sure.
And that, like, they've driven nice cars in the previous books, but it's like, a Volvo is not like an expensive car.
No.
I mean, even a nice Volvo isn't like wild. Like, if they were driving around in like Lamborghinis and stuff.
Yeah.
So it's like, they seem to have like be pretty modest with their wealth, and this book is just like, no, like this is like full out like.
Yeah.
To me, this reminded me of like Everything I Know About 50 Shades of Grey, like how Christian Grey acts.
Yeah.
Is like how kind of more how Edward is in this book with like the helicopter rides in 50 Shades compared to like the private island in this one.
Yeah, I can see that for sure.
Like they have servants like boat in or something. I don't know.
Yeah, the cleaners. Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of an interesting little twist. What was our next pin? The making love?
Yeah. Yeah, let's talk about this for a second.
Okay, so this book has this weird fascination with I don't even know how to describe this. But it's like first there's the pregnancy thing and how you're not really human if you can't get pregnant, which is kind of fun. Cuz like that's something Leo wrestles with, that's something that Bella wrestles with. At one point she offers to Edward that if he'll have sex with her again, she'll stay human for a year.
Yes.
Because her humanity is like something worth protecting to Edward.
She says that she wants to keep having sex with him when he's a vampire and she's a human because she really likes it.
Yeah.
So she'll stay human for another couple years and go to university and like get a degree or whatever. And Edward's like, sure, that's what I've wanted you to do this whole time. So, okay. And then she finds out she's pregnant.
No, but doesn't he... I thought he said no to that because he's like, you're just trying to trick me. I promised I wouldn't have sex with you again.
Yeah, that's right. Right. He's like, you're just trying to trick me into having sex with you, so no.
You vile temptress.
That's right.
And then, but then there's like... So there's the whole thing with her getting pregnant, and like the pregnancy happens so fast.
Yeah.
Like it's like...
They're
instead of
on
9
like
months, it's like a week.
Yeah, it's within 2 weeks of their honeymoon. She like realizes that something's wrong.
Oh, okay. In reading the chapter summary, it
Yeah.
made it sound like she realized like the next day.
Well, they have sex twice on their honeymoon. Once
Yeah.
the wedding day, or I guess the first day of their honeymoon, and then once like right before she realizes she's pregnant. So I think the first time got her pregnant, but she didn't realize it
Yeah.
until just after the next time they had sex.
Because the first time she's like ravenously hungry and there's like a comment about how she's eating for two.
Yeah, she's eating like just eggs, scrambled eggs for days, and they're like, "Bella, why are you so hungry?" And she's like, "I don't know. It's the island. It's doing weird things to me." I do want to talk about how they talk about sex in this book.
Yeah, let's do it.
They will not say the word sex. And there's like a huge segment of the last book. I forgot to talk about this for the last book. But Bella's like, "I want to have sex with you, Edward." But she will not say those words. And it's like they talk around it for a whole chapter. And it's like, "I want to be with you, Edward." And Edward's like, "I can't do that, Bella." And if you didn't like clue in on what they're talking about, it wouldn't make any sense at all.
Yeah.
And they're being like, you can say sex, even though it's a young adult book, you can say sex. And Bella and Edward on their honeymoon, they sleep together for the first time, and nobody says anything about actually sleeping together. They make some kind of vague references to being together, and then Bella wakes up in the morning and she's covered in bruises.
Also, oh no, you keep going. My thing comes slightly after this.
There's a point, they argue like the morning after their wedding night about how Edward hurt her, and she was like, "No, I had fun, it was a good time." And Edward was like, "No, I can never do that to you again, Bella." And there's a point where Edward says that he talked to Carlisle and his brothers about what sex was like.
Because Edward was a virgin.
And I thought that was like really funny. Just this 120-year-old vampire asking his younger brothers about what sex was like.
That is really good.
He also refers to it as physical pleasure. That's like the most direct reference they made to sex, and I cringed so hard.
He also, at one point, he thinks Bella's going to want to have sex again, so he makes her day as busy as possible.
Yeah, he just
so
tires her out.
Tired.
Yeah, it's like a puppy that you have to run until they're too exhausted to make a mess anymore, and then you just let them sleep.
What a guy. And so we're talking about how they don't directly reference sex.
Yes.
There's something else that comes up in this book that they don't directly reference.
What's that?
Dealing with the pregnancy. Because they think that the baby's going to kill her.
Yeah.
And they want it to be dealt with.
Yeah, they keep wanting to deal with it.
Like, they can't use the word abortion.
No.
So they have to just say, deal with it.
Yes.
We're going to take it back to Carlisle and deal with it.
Yeah, Carlisle's going to take care of it. We're going to take care of it. Jacob, can you convince Bella to take care of this?
Yeah, that's another thing. Let's just skip to that. Edward wants Jacob to convince Bella to get rid of the baby, and then so that Jacob can impregnate her and she can have a normal baby.
Yes. Bella doesn't like this idea because she thinks that Jacob is implying that they artificially inseminate for a baby so she can have a regular human baby. And Bella's response is, "I don't want a fake baby." Bella, please. Okay.
Yeah. So
Bella.
test tube babies aren't real babies, according
Test tube baby's not real.
to Bella. But also, like, I love this interaction because, like, we talked about this when we were talking about our short stories about how John Updike writes women like he's doesn't understand women whatsoever.
Yeah.
This is like Stephanie Meyer's equivalent of writing men like she has no idea how men operate. Like the idea that somebody would be like, "Hey, romantic rival, I want you to convince my wife to abort her baby and then you impregnate her."
Yeah.
That is just such a weird like thing to include in the book, and
Yeah.
it goes nowhere. Like it's like
No, it goes nowhere. Bella's like, "No," and then that's the end of it. So.
this totally pointless aside.
Yeah.
Like Edward and Jacob are almost conspiring together to decide what like Bella's fate's going to be again.
Yeah. This first section of this is like everybody is trying to tell her to abort the baby, and she doesn't want to do it. And they talk about how they were planning on forcing her to abort the baby. They were going to knock her out, take care of it, And then they continue on with their lives, but Rosalie wouldn't let them.
And also, though, why would Edward assume that Jacob would be able to give her a normal baby?
That's a good
He's
question.
a werewolf.
Yeah.
Like, their whole bloodline is werewolf. It's
Yeah.
based on their bloodline.
Yeah.
So their normal human baby wouldn't be human.
Yeah.
Oh, it's weird.
It's weird.
So, yeah, so that's that.
They do mention humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes, werewolves have 24 pairs of chromosomes, and vampires have 25. Something that I wrote down that I thought was really dumb to mention, but...
Yeah, also, isn't Down syndrome caused by having an extra chromosome?
I believe so.
So, like...
Yeah.
That's a really weird thing for Stephanie
Yeah.
Meyer to include.
Yeah, I remember thinking... I wrote this down because I thought that when I read it, but, you know, worth noting.
All right, so next should be... should we talk about the, like, werewolf stuff?
The werewolf stuff? Sure, we can do that.
Because that's, for me, that's, like, the best part of the book.
Yes, absolutely, I agree with that, for sure.
I like that she gets into the dynamic of how the werewolves work, and I like that they have the pack mentality, and, like, the alpha is actually, like, kind of in control. I think that's a cool, like, little fantasy aspect she throws in.
Yeah, for sure.
The
alpha gives a command, and the pack has to follow it. Like, they have no choice.
Yeah. But I do want to... So that's a positive. It's like we're doing like a compliment sandwich almost.
Sure.
The next part, though, is like, it drives me crazy how the motivations and like the things flip-flop. Like, Jacob wants to kill the Cullens because of Bella.
Mm-hmm.
But then the rest of the pack is like, no, don't do it. And then he sees that she's pregnant and it's like, oh, we should protect her. And the rest of the pack is like, no, don't do it. Let's kill her.
Yeah.
Like, it's completely like, I don't know. It's just like they totally, total role reversal right there.
Yeah, for sure.
Where it's like,
in the span of like one chapter, everybody flips around.
Yeah. So it's like, you establish that Jacob's going to be mad about this, but then he's the only one who's not mad about it.
Yeah.
And I feel like the other werewolves, like, do they have a reason? Like, they just keep saying the baby's going to be an abomination. But, like...
They don't really have a reason. I feel like a lot of that is just the influence from Sam.
Yeah. But Sam is, like... I mean, he's not anti-Cullen before that. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
Jacob was more anti-Cullen than he was.
Yeah, for sure.
I almost feel like the whole, like, baby thing is just, like... They wanted to infuse a bit of like Stephanie wanted to infuse some I keep referring to her by her first name, like her and I are like old
Your
friends.
besties, yeah. My girl Steph.
She is the golden goddess, the queen of books. No, I like her. But yeah, I feel like she's trying to like insert more drama into this section.
Sure.
So she just makes it so like, oh, the other werewolves, they want the baby dead because it's a bad baby.
Yes.
And then that also gives us a reason for why Jacob has to stick around Bella the whole time. Mm-hmm. And, okay, what did you say? How should we end this?
We should talk about Bella's transformation.
All right.
Bella is like, she bends down to pick something up, and then there's like a wet sucking sound, and like the placenta detaches and starts suffocating the baby. So they rush Bella upstairs, and Edward is like ripping into her stomach. Well, Jacob is giving her mouth to mouth. And it's just like, it's not sexual in any way, but it's got like this really weird threesome vibe to it that just like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's
I don't know, maybe I'm just seeing things that aren't there, but it was really weird for me.
Yeah, that whole section to me also just, well, because you get it from two perspectives. First, you get it from Jacob's perspective.
Yes.
And then when it comes back to Belle's perspective, it starts right at that point again. Yeah. And, it is weird, like, that both boys are operating on her with their mouths. Like,
yeah, that's it. That's because Edward is ripping into her with his teeth.
Yeah, because only vampire teeth can break the vampiric skin that's surrounding the like sac or whatever the baby's in. Yeah,
so Edward is like chewing into her stomach, and Jacob is like breathing into her mouth, and it's weird.
Yeah, and then like I also found it kind of weird how like, actually I'm kind of torn, because on the one hand I sort of like how Edward like injects his venom into her, which, okay, just saying that out loud sounded bad. But like doesn't he have a syringe first of venom and then he just starts biting her all over?
I think so. Yeah, he injects the venom right into her heart and then he like bites her on the neck and on the wrists and stuff like that.
Yeah, he just starts covering her in bites and then licking the bites that they heal.
Yeah.
And I remember just feeling like it's just the fact that she's like dying at that point.
Yeah.
Which makes it feel like this weird like sexual thing of like he's biting and licking her all over.
Yeah. Jacob is like giving her mouth to mouth at the same time that Edward is doing this. So it's weird. And I don't think it needed to be included.
Yeah, it is really weird. Okay, so we're going to do what the movies do and split Breaking Dawn into 2 parts.
There's just so much to talk about.
There is a lot that happens in the second, or like the third, like, trimester of this book.
This is about the halfway point too. Bella's first book and then Jacob's book. Because for some reason this one book is split into 3 tiny books.
Yeah.
The first Bella and the Jacob book make up like the first half. And then the last is all Bella. So.
Well, and the first book doesn't have much happen. Like, they have the wedding.
Yeah, and they go on their honeymoon.
And
she gets pregnant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, yeah. So,
and then I feel like the book really takes off on Jacob's spot. So.
Yeah, Jacob's spot is when the book gets interesting.
Right.
The second half of the book, the second half of this episode, that's for me when things really fall apart. When we've got some imprinting, we've got a super powerful Bella.
Jumps off the rails and keeps going.
So we are going to say peace out for now. What should we plug?
Twitter, LiteraryAFPod, Twitter. Yeah. Gmail, LiteraryAFPod@gmail.com. Podbean, LiteraryAF. iTunes and Spotify also, both LiteraryAF. Mm-hmm. And YouTube as well. That's all our stuff.
So check us out at all those places. Mm-hmm. Give us a follow on internet.com. And yeah, we will catch you next week with the rest of this
Breaking Dawn Part 2.
Bye.
Bye.